You know what you're listening to?
Is that a trick question?
It's the I Still Love This Game podcast with your host, Matthew Damian.
He's an idiot. Don't listen to this. He's an idiot.
Hello and welcome to episode 114 of the I Still Love This Game podcast. And yeah, I've taken some time off. The last couple of days I've been busy dealing with some things back home. In addition to, I did some recordings with Ben Wallace that will be up before the weekend. And also I did a podcast episode with Brian Grant, the ex-Trailblazer, ex-Miami Heat, ex-Sacramento King, ex-Los Angeles Lakers. And that will be coming up next week. But that doesn't mean just because I took a break that I took a break from watching basketball. I've been keeping a very close eye as to what's been going on in the league, obviously. And last night, the national TV coverage pretty much was all centered around the Celtics and the Trailblazers, and then the Lakers versus the I'm drawing a blank here. The Lakers and Pelicans. Excuse me. Sorry. But what we saw, if you got League Pass, if you don't have League Pass, go onto YouTube. I'm sure it's on there now. At least look at the highlights. Because we saw a fantastic performance from Dwyane Wade. And we've seen him play very well this season. A lot better than how he started last season. But we saw him play very well at times. But this was a great performance by him. It really was. And also Goran Dragic too. Let's not forget him. The backcourt, the used to be the starting backcourt, obviously, for the Miami Heat. They combined for 52 points coming off the bench. They only played a combined 46 minutes. Also combined, they were 17 of 28 from the field. That's insanely good when you consider that they have been wildly inconsistent all season. And also keep in mind who they're going up against. They're going up against the Golden State Warriors. Back-to-back champions, defending champions, going for a three-peat. And Miami did come out with very strong, and that's what caught my attention early on. But in the third quarter, we saw, and also the fourth quarter, we saw Golden State apply the clamps and get back into the game and get the lead. But Dwyane Wade, he's got a way of making these shots. When he made this shot, it kind of reminded me, because I'm trying to describe it from what I saw. He went up, he had fake, the ball was deflected, brought it back. It looked like he was inside the three-point line. He wasn't. He lifted his foot up just in time. I'm not sure if that's the official rule, but that's how they called it. So one foot was behind the three-point line. The other one was inside the three-point line, but he lifted it up so it wasn't touching the ground. And he just sort of flinged it up there and it banked in, and it turned into being a game winner because they were down by 2 and they ruled it as a three-pointer. And it was one of those special moments. And as I said, he's got a knack for making game-winning shots like this. I immediately thought back to I'm not sure if you guys remember it. He had that steal, or it might have been a block, excuse me. Anyway, it was on the fast break. It was up against the Chicago Bulls. And he had to just fling it up from about 40 feet because there was no time left on the clock. And he drilled it. And he made it. And I remember him jumping up on the scorer's table. I think he was saying something like, this is my house. He was wearing the L Heat jersey. I remember that as well. But my mind instantly went there. But then it got me thinking, what is his legacy? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what Dwyane Wade's legacy is in the NBA. Obviously, a 3-time champion. Also, he was a Finals MVP in 2006. He won the scoring championship in 2009. He should have been the MVP that year. I firmly believe that. He's a multiple-time All-Star, 13 times to be precise. He has been on the All-Defensive team 3 times. He's been on the All-NBA team, first team twice, overall 8 times. He's won a gold medal. He's won the Skills Challenge. He's the all-time leader for the Miami Heat in terms of scoring and also in terms of assists. That's a resume that is, I think, with certain players, they shouldn't even have to go through the process to be Hall of Famers. I think they should just be instantly, the moment they are retired, or maybe not the moment because some players come back, but the moment they are retired, I think they should be instant Hall of Famers. And I know that the Hall of Fame's never going to do that because they like the intrigue, they like the build-up and all that. But certain players, whether it's Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, players like that, Shaq, obviously, They should be instant Hall of Famers. I'm not sure if I will put Dwyane Wade in that group, to be completely honest with you. But he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is also, quite honestly, he's a class act. He really is. And I mentioned in the Josh McDonald episode why I feel that way. But I think he's great for basketball. And to be honest with you, I'm going to miss him a hell of a lot more than I'm going to miss LeBron when LeBron leaves. So I'm not saying he's better than LeBron, but what I will say is I'm going to miss him a lot more because he doesn't bring any drama. Even when things were going bad in Cleveland and in Chicago and Miami before he left, he never brought any drama to the table. He was always he never caused any issues from that regard. You look at the drama that LeBron's causing in LA, and you can say, well, LeBron's better than him. Well, okay, that's fine, but that drama takes away from a team as well, and we've seen the results of that. With Dwyane Wade, even though he has declined and he's not the player that LeBron is right now, he has not taken away from his team at all. He's readily accepted coming off the bench. He's embracing this final year going around. I'm going to miss him. I will miss him. I think a lot of fans are now saying, well, should he even retire? That's not for me to decide. That's not for them to decide. That's for Dwyane to decide. It's his career. If he's happy going away and walking away with something left in the tank, then that's completely on him. If he wants to burn out his career and make sure there's nothing left on the candle, that's also his decision. So just appreciate it, and just because we're not going to see a whole lot more of those games and those performances on that level. We may see one or two more other good performances. They may get into the playoffs. I hope they get into the playoffs. There's a bit of a logjam there at the bottom part of the Eastern Conference, which is what we'll talk about in a moment. But the reality is, I'm not sure how many more times we're going to see Dwyane Wade making game winners after scoring 28, 27 points, whatever it was, coming off the bench. That was a special moment, and it was even more special because if you're talking about a regular season performance, you can't get much better than doing it at home up against Golden State. That tops it off. You can't get much better than that. Maybe because of the history with LeBron or whatever, it would have been nice to see him do it there, but even still, man, I don't think you can top doing that up against the Golden State Warriors. So that was one of the good moments of last night. The bad moments, and I say bad because there's such a focus on this, and that's of course the Portland Trail Blazers and Boston Celtics game, and it all ties back to Kyrie Irving. And I can't help but think back to the episode that I did recently about the New York Knicks and Indiana Pacers, or the New York Knicks rivalries in the 90s, and of course there was a focus on the Indiana Pacers. And I was talking about how the Knicks were always the favored teams early on in that rivalry until they weren't. And then the Pacers became the dominant team, the more talented team, the team that was expected to win. Now, when you look at the Boston Celtics last season, they were not expected to do well, especially in the playoffs. I predicted them to lose in the first round because they didn't have Kyrie Irving. They didn't have Gordon Hayward. And then, of course, they beat the Bucks in 7 games. I then expected Philadelphia to win because, keep in mind, Philly had just looked very impressive, winning in 5 games over Miami. And once again, the injury concerns were there. And then I expected them to lose to the Cavs, and they did lose to the Cavs. So finally I was right. What's that saying? That a broken clock is right twice a day? That was my one time. That was my one of 2 times a day that I was correct. Regardless, they were the underdogs that year, and they exceeded expectations. Now they are heading into the playoffs, and I wasn't heading into the season, and I wasn't the only one with this. I was saying that I expected Boston to not just win the Eastern Conference, but I thought that they would win the championship. And the reason was simple. I saw how well they played last season, and I was stupid enough. I was dumb enough. Stupid enough, dumb enough, they both work. I was dumb enough to think that Kyrie Irving would come back and be like Gordon Hayward and accept whatever role is required for this team to get better and get over the hump. completely wrong. I completely misjudged that, because when Kyrie Irving left Cleveland and forced his way out of Cleveland, he didn't leave as a free agent or anything like that, but when he forced his way out, he wanted to show the world, and to LeBron, and to himself, and the Cavs organization, he wanted to show everybody that he could run a team and lead a team to a championship. What he wasn't expecting was these younger players, the Browns, the Tatums, the Horfords, the Haywoods, the Morrises, the Roziers. He wasn't expecting Marcus Smart as well, he wasn't expecting all those players to really... That team is primed for a championship run without him. They made to the 7th game of the conference finals without him. So if he had come back, he was not going to get the credit that he wants. He wants so bad. So he wants out again. And it's disappointing because we're seeing the results of this team that's only 12 games above 500, and they should be a lot better than that. They should be a lot better. It's unbelievable when you think about how well they played last season and where they're at now. And they lost again last night to the Blazers. And the Blazers, they're not a bad team. Obviously, they're not a bad team. However, I don't think they should be... I would have been surprised if they had won. And I was flicking back between this game and the Miami Heat game. And I was surprised with the level of defense that we saw. I believe there was only one 30-point quarter for either team in that game. But to me, it was nothing to do with that. It was, you just see this team, and this is, to me, this is a carbon copy of what we're seeing in Los Angeles with LeBron. It really is. This team is not clicking, and they play better when Kyrie Irving's not playing. The ball moves around the court. They trust Terry Rozier. Kyrie Irving holds onto the ball far too much. And I don't think he can win them back. To be completely honest with you, I was pulling up the stats just as I was rambling off myself there. And yes, I was correct. Only one 30-point quarter in the entire game, and that was by Portland in the third quarter. Kyrie Irving had a game in terms of statistical production, 31 points, but a plus-minus of -10. Now, Gordon Hayward, on the other side of it, he only had 3 points, but his plus-minus was 13. Do you know why? Because he doesn't need the ball in his hands. He can go out there, he can play defense, he can set screens, he can do the other things that allow players like Tatum or Jaylen Brown or whoever. He can go out there and allow those guys to get comfortable and to really grow and excel in their roles. You can't do that with Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving, he wants the accolades, he wants the praise more for leading a team rather than actually winning. And when you have a superstar like that, whether it's LeBron James or Kyrie Irving, there's nothing the coach can do, there's nothing anyone else can do. You need to get rid of those players. It's just that simple. And I fully appreciate what a talent he is, especially on the offensive end. You need players like that. Typically, you need players like that can close out big pressure situations because they have so many counters. You can't force him one way because he's just as good with the left or the right hand in terms of dribbling and getting to the basket. His body control may be unprecedented for a player his size. He can finish around the basket. He can get to the foul line. He's very, very clutch at the foul line. His jumper is good. He is a willing passer. That's not an easy combination to replace. However, the moment that phone call was made public by LeBron or Kyrie Irving, it was probably a joint collaboration, to be honest with you. The moment that happened, that fractured this team because they weren't clicking at that point either, the Celtics. So I would have dealt him. And the reason I say that is because I don't think even if the Celtics wanted him to stay, I don't think he's going to stay. But the issues that he has caused has sent this team backwards. Certain players, to me, a great player is somebody that adds value to a team regardless. They don't take anything away from a team. A great player has the ability to understand what their teammates can do because they're better than their teammates, right? Their teammates are obviously great players too in their own right for making the NBA, but the greatest, relatively speaking, the greatest NBA players, they identify what their teammates can't do. So they allow their teammates to do what they can, and then they go plug in the holes where it's needed to make sure the team is complete and as competitive as possible. I don't see that out of Kyrie Irving. Quite honestly, I don't see that out of LeBron James. If I'm totally honest and fair, I didn't see that a whole lot of times with Shaq either. Shaq was essentially what he was, and you didn't get a whole lot of variation with him. Now, the thing with Shaq, though, he was so dominant, it didn't matter. And Kyrie Irving, if we're being completely honest once again, he is not of the same caliber of LeBron James or Shaq. And if you think that I'm too hard on LeBron, just keep in mind that I was a big Kyrie Irving fan up until this season because I've seen what he's actually done. Now, if you put him in the right situation with teammates that are subservient to him and will just play alongside him, they're just catch and shoot guys, they spread the floor guys, they're defenders, fine. That's a pretty good situation for Kyrie Irving. However, if you do that, I don't think you're going to win a title. And Boston wants to win a title, and that's their number one focus. So if I'm the Celtics, I cut my losses with him. And it's not that big of a loss. It really isn't. Because think about what they gave up. They gave up Isaiah Thomas. Yes, Isaiah Thomas was an MVP candidate, if you can believe that. It was only a couple of seasons ago. He was an MVP candidate. However, he wanted the Supermax. There was no way the Celtics were going to give up the Supermax. That's why I thought it was such a great deal to bring in Kyrie Irving. So they gave up that. They gave up Crowder, which might have been the biggest loss in the whole thing for them. And they also gave up what would become the 8th pick of the draft for Kyrie Irving. Now, if they let Kyrie Irving walk, okay, you ended up avoiding paying a Supermax or having to pay a Supermax on Isaiah Thomas or letting him walk. So there's no loss there. The 8th pick in the draft, yeah, that would have been nice, but did they really need it? Probably not. If we're playing hypotheticals and you got Terry Rozier, yeah, he would have been a nice little backup, Sexton, assuming they would have taken him. Or maybe they would have traded the pick and got additional picks in the future. We've seen them, Danny Ainge, do that quite well. And obviously Crowder's played well. Once again, a player that knows his role and tries to fit in accordingly. So the point that I'm making in all this is people are starting to blame Brad Stevens in this. I don't think it's Brad Stevens' fault. I think Kyrie Irving is uncoachable, and to me he's been too influenced by LeBron. Because the same things you can say about LeBron James, you can say about Kyrie Irving. Uncoachable, also to the point where he knows what he wants and he's going to get it. If he doesn't get it, the team is going to suffer. And that's unacceptable. The team should always come first. Championships, winning, they are the ultimate results. It's not subjective. Either you win or you lose. And if you look at players like LeBron or Kyrie Irving, I don't think they care about that. I think they want the adulation. I think they want to do it on their terms. And it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you have to accept lesser role. Sometimes less is more. It's just that simple. So if I was the Celtics, you can't trade him now because the trade deadline's gone. I don't think you get a whole lot for him right now either if you were to trade him. But come, the 1st of June or July, whenever it is, when free agency starts, look, if he leaves, I wouldn't say good riddance, but I wouldn't lose a whole lot of sleep either. I think that maybe, just maybe, they would have dodged a bullet because if Kyrie Irving wants to stay, we've seen how Jaylen Brown, how Tatum, we've seen how those two guys played without him. And we've seen how their development has gone backwards with him. Do we expect that trajectory to change? Do we expect that trend to change next season? No, I wouldn't expect that at all. And right now, the development of those two guys as well as the rest of the team, that's paramount. I don't want to see Tatum and Brown going down the same road that Kyrie Irving went down because of LeBron James. that could be a disastrous situation. Because the Celtics, we saw last year, they've got a very nice team. You don't eviscerate the 76ers like they did in the playoffs whilst being undermanned without having something special. And I would hate to see them lose that culture. I'd hate to see Brad Stevens lose some of his coaching confidence, because he's gonna get killed in the media the same way that Luke Walton's being killed in the media. Like, it's his fault. It's not his fault. It really isn't. It's Kyrie Irving's fault. And I'm not bitter about that, but it's the reality of it. So maybe that's just the way that Kyrie Irving is wired. Who knows? Quite honestly, I don't care. That's the end result. So if he cannot help this team, this core, what do you expect them to do? Do you expect them to trade that core to get the pieces around Kyrie Irving? That could work, I guess, but it's a huge gamble. Because what if they bring in Anthony Davis? What if they bring in some of those players? And just like when Kyrie Irving was playing alongside, when Tatum and Brown were not playing alongside Kyrie Irving, and they were showing their potential, but then Kyrie Irving came, and all of a sudden their value dropped, their production dropped. Who's to say whoever they bring in, their value and their production is not going to drop? So it's a huge gamble. And I wouldn't be willing to take it. I think Kyrie Irving has to go. And it may not even be his decision anymore, which could completely blow up in his face. Just say he goes to New York, and just say, another player goes to New York with him. It's not going to be what he had in Boston. Because what are the pieces you've got around? That's certainly not of the caliber of the pieces that you have in a Celtics jersey right now. But that's a long way down the road. What isn't a long way down the road are these playoff runs and these playoff matchups. I should say playoff races. Third time's a charm, right? That's the second time the broken clock was right. But a lot of people are talking and focused on the Lakers, their playoff race in the Western Conference. That's not the only playoff race to be concerned with. So I'm looking at the conferences right now. Milwaukee is 2.5 games ahead of the Raptors. That should be very interesting, because clearly those two teams seem to have their balance right. Now, obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. And if Boston ever figures it out, when I say Boston, I'm referring to Kyrie Irving, and figures it out and accepts his role, a role that can actually help this team, and I don't mean standing around and holding the ball for 13, 14 seconds, then they're going to be an issue as well to deal with in the playoffs. But right now, the class of the Eastern Conference is Toronto, and it is Milwaukee. So 2.5 games, 20 games to go. It is doable. This is absolutely doable. And it could be a situation that will decide, it will be a situation that will decide home court advantage if these two teams match up in the conference finals. So there is plenty to play for there. So with that in mind, you should start to see Kawhi Leonard play a lot more consistently. We've seen every so often he will have a game off. But there's plenty to play for there. A Game 7 on the road, a Game 7 at home to go to the NBA Finals, that's plenty of incentive over a 20-game period. Moving down the conference, you see Indiana and Philadelphia. There's only a half game separating those two. And the Pacers have done very well to stay at their position, to stay at the third seed despite Oladipo's injury. And I'd be surprised if they can hold on to even the fourth seed, to be completely honest with you, because that's such a major, major blow. They relied so heavily on him. But now I think you'll see them drop to number 5. I think we'll see Philadelphia go to number 3. I think Boston, almost by default, will move up as well. They're 3 games back. That's quite a few games. It wouldn't shock me. Let me rephrase it. It wouldn't shock me if the Pacers are the 4th seed and Boston is the 5th seed, but I don't think Indiana can actually win that series based off just talent alone. In terms of their camaraderie and the way they connect on the court, that will give them a chance. It won't be a sweep. It won't be a 5-game series. It could be a long series, but I would say that Boston gets over the hump if that is a matchup. And towards the bottom tier, and we're not used to this. We really aren't. The bottom tier of the conference, you've got Brooklyn, at 32 and 31. You got the Pistons, who lost last night. They are 29 and 31. So they're 1.5 games back of Brooklyn. And you got Charlotte, who's 28 and 33. They lost last night to Houston. They are a few games back as well. They're at 19, so they're 1.5 games back behind Detroit. And then you got Orlando, who is 28 and 34. They are half a game back of the Hornets. I could see some small movement between the Hornets and the Magic. I could see that happening. But I think Brooklyn will stay at 6, and I think the Pistons will stay at 7, which is good for me because I can see some playoff basketball with the Pistons, considering my location. But what I'm really hoping to see, and all these teams are in the same division, which makes it interesting too. I'd like to see Miami because they are also a half a game back behind the Hornets. So I'd like to see Wade go out in the playoffs. That is my personal hope. But I wouldn't be upset if I saw the Hornets get there because Kemba Walker has played so well. He deserves another shot in the playoffs. And the Orlando Magic, look, they've exceeded some expectations this year too. So any one of those three teams, I'm not going to be upset if they make it. But if I had to say my personal preference, it would be Miami. But if you ask me who I really think is going to make it, not my personal preference, I am going to go with the Hornets. Out west, everyone is still overlooking Denver, and they are only half a game back of the top seed in the Western Conference. That is incredible, because I remember when they started the season hot, I did not expect them to stay in the top 5 of the West at this point. They are now number 2. They've been number 2 for a long period, number 1 or number 2 all season long. They are number 2. They can, with Oklahoma losing last night, they continue to build a solid gap between the Thunder and the Nuggets. I don't think the Thunder will catch them. They'll play in the second round unless the Nuggets actually go past the Warriors, because the Warriors might just pump the brakes a little bit and not go so hard because they have to go. This will be their 4th straight trip to the finals, their 5th straight trip to the finals. Excuse me. They're going to be going for their 4th title and their 3rd straight with Kevin Durant. That's insane. So maybe the last 20 games they don't go so hard. And if you ever wanted to make a case for load management for a team, this is it. Then you start to see a little bit of the logjam, because Portland is only half a game behind Oklahoma. They could chop and change, and they could have serious ramifications because the difference between 3 and 4 is obviously who you play in the second round. Now, that being said, if you have championship aspirations, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to go through both of them. If you finish 3rd, you have to go through 2 and 1 to get to the finals. Now, in order of who you play, that will change, but you still have to go through both of them. Houston is at 7. You got the Jazz at 8.5. I don't think the Jazz will overtake the Rockets now that the Rockets are starting to get healthy. But then you've got the big logjam that everyone wants to talk about, and that's 7 through to 12. With let's throw Minnesota with that too. 7 through 13, and you got the Spurs and the Clippers. They're equal at 10 games back at 34 and 29. You got the Kings that are 31 and 30. So they're 2 games behind that. You got the Lakers, who are 1 game behind that, so 3 games out. And you got the Timberwolves, who are 1 game behind the Lakers, and they are 4 games back. They are still within striking distance, the Timberwolves, but I am willing to say that no, they are done. They will not get past it, because not only do they have to hope that they catch up to the Clippers or the Spurs, but they also have to overtake the Lakers and Kings. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to come down, though, to the Kings and Lakers. And what I mean by that is I think that the Clippers, they are playing hard. Doc Rivers is a fantastic coach. I've said that many times. So they will be competitive. I just don't think they have the firepower to stay in this race. Now, prove me wrong, please, because I'd love to see it. I would love to see them. They're a ballsy team. I'll give you that. They are a completely ballsy team, and they just don't care. They just go out there and they play hard. And Doc Rivers, man, if you're starting a franchise, he's got to be on your short list of coaches that you want because of his ability to get his most out of players. But that being said, I do think the Kings or the Lakers, one of those two teams, will make their run. The Lakers have a more difficult schedule, but they have LeBron, they have Ingram. The Kings, they're talented too, don't get me wrong. But if I had to put money on it, I would say the Lakers squeak in. And then, if the Lakers squeak into the 8th seed, now I just talked about the Nuggets. They're only half a game back of the Warriors. We could see the Nuggets versus the Lakers. How many people would be willing to put money on the Nuggets in that series? So that's something to keep an eye on. But what I want to do now is move on to some user questions. And I received a message from a friend of the podcast. He's going to be joining the podcast soon. He's going to be a guest on the show. And I consider him an NBA historian. He's very, very sharp with his history of the game. We're going to be doing some good features. But what he sent me was a link that I hadn't seen before. And it was Ryan Hollins. That's probably why I hadn't seen it before. It was Ryan Hollins and Quentin Richardson discussing the greatest of all time topic. Quentin Richardson actually shot back at him for the stupidity that he actually spits out, which was good. But I don't remember the whole lot of the clip. All I remember is typically when I'm given these videos, one, I don't look at them, or two, I'll interject a lot. I don't think I'll have to interject a lot here. Obviously, I'll let them make their point, and then I'm going to stop and then rebuff it. But from what I remember, Quentin Richardson did a pretty good job in this. But I think you guys should hear it, and I want to get into it as well. So let's play the clip, and I'll be pausing it at certain times.
I have a question, because we often have the big debate about LeBron, MJ, Kobe, and the greatest and the GOAT and all that. Question for you. Have you ever heard Kobe activate playoff mode? Or him?
No, he stays in playoff mode.
They just in the one mode. They
So
kill
does Jordan.
mode. They kill mode all the time.
Yeah.
They don't know any other mode, right?
Yeah.
That is part of why.
Well, you got to also understand that.
Listen.
No, I hear you.
I don't want to hear anything about that. When you are one way, you are one way. Michael can't turn on the playoff mode. He got one mode. I kill everybody all the time.
Let me throw
Kobe had one mode. I kill everybody all the time.
Let me throw something at you.
You ain't never heard them sit there and say, I'm about to activate this mode so I could go and go play hard.
You ready? You ready?
You ain't never heard
ready?
that. You ain't heard Lou Alcindor. You ain't heard Magic. You ain't heard Zeke.
For one,
I've never heard that.
For one, hold on. Michael didn't play against the talent level that LeBron competes against today.
Here we go.
Now, I'm not sure if you could hear that, but Quentin Richardson says, here we go. And in the video, he actually rolls his eyes. And, okay, if you're going to say that the talent level is superior for the that LeBron goes up against, also keep in mind who LeBron plays with. Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. Every time he's won a title, he's had 2 All-Stars. Jordan, throughout his career, throughout his 6 championships, he only ever played with 1 All-Star. So if we're going to judge teams by All-Stars, whether it's Golden State or whoever, we've also got to count how many All-Stars that LeBron played with. And then you realize the talent disparity isn't that high, if at all. And if we're going to be consistent with it, do we then give Derrick Rose a pass for losing in 2011 because he was the only All-Star, whereas Miami had 3? It's got to work both ways.
2, Kobe Bryant literally ran out of his arms, his shoulders, both knees, and his legs, and you talk about number 3.
Let's talk about 5 instead. Kobe Bryant finished with 5 championships because he ran out of his knees and his arms and his legs and all that other stuff. He played with a broken finger on a championship season for most of that season, the second half of that season. So he paid the price. So how is that used as an excuse that he cared that much that he ran his body into the ground? I don't know.
The longevity of LeBron James. LeBron knows that if he goes at it day after day after day after day, there's not going to be too much left.
Let's play a game. Name this player. At age 34 and 35, because his birthday was in February. Probably just gave it away then. Dude was league MVP, scoring champion, all-defensive first team, all-NBA first team, all-star game MVP, finals MVP, and NBA champion. If you guessed Michael Jordan, you are 100% correct. If we're talking longevity, well, I mean, Jordan didn't have to pace himself for that, did he? And Jordan's body didn't break down. In fact, in Jordan's last 3 championships, once he returned from baseball, he did not miss one game. Not a regular season game, not a playoff game, none of them. He played in all 82 games in every single playoff game. LeBron James at the age of, 34, 33? He missed how many games because of a groin injury? So we're talking about how intelligent LeBron is in keeping his body in shape. Jordan beats him in that too. He beats him in that too. So what kind of argument is that? Ryan Hollins is as ineffective of an analysis as he was as a player.
And now you save yourself for the right moments, playoff moments. And I understand Chicago.
I'm saving myself.
I know Chicago. Y'all don't.
What this idiot is referring to is Quentin Richardson is from Chicago. So he's implying that Richardson has a bias towards Jordan because of Chicago. I'm not from Chicago, and I see it. Right, the difference. And also, last time I checked, neither is Kobe Bryant or Lou Alcindor or Magic Johnson. Isaiah Thomas is. So these are the players that Quentin Richardson also mentioned before when he was talking about players not needing to turn it on and off. So it's a real desperate attempt for somebody. I mean, should we expect any less at this stage? Let's see what else he has to say.
Turn it off and y'all go get it and bang, bang, bang. But LeBron goes about it intelligently.
MJ and Kobe. Listen to what I'm saying.
What you got? What you got?
Everything you are saying only helps my point. Michael never had to do none of that. He ain't never go turn on.
He didn't play against the same competition.
Okay. So when he was going up against the Pistons and the bad boys was beating him down, did he go join up with somebody and say, I need to go to college? This is like college for me. Help me learn how to do this.
Thank you, Quentin Richardson. Thank you very much.
No, he took his lumps. And when the first time he got an all-star, the first time he had an all-star, we out of here.
Yes, thank you. My goodness, thank you.
It's over. As soon as Scotty became an all-star, and by the way, we didn't go find him and bring him and recruit him. He came, we drafted him, and MJ got him together.
And LeBron had an all-star in Kyrie who asked to leave.
2. He had 2 everywhere he went.
Oh, the vindication. The vindication. I've been saying this for years. Thank you, Quentin Richardson.
You think LeBron?
This is all I'm saying. I don't even get into this argument with people because it's a foolish argument to me. In my eyes, in my heart, it's MJ and that's it. I entertain the arguments and the conversations just for entertainment.
Well, it's interesting if you look. There was a great article that came out that showed the timeline of LeBron's quotes about MJ. He's my favorite player. He's the greatest. I want to be like him. Yet such different approaches, right? And then, wow, I can't believe I'm in the conversation with Michael Jordan. And then I want to be the greatest. Maybe I can be the greatest. I never thought I could be, but now I think I can be. Then he wins the championship in Cleveland, and he says, "This made me the greatest."
Right.
You clearly disagree. Do you
agree?
agree?
Publicly, he's going to say those things. Privately, that's a whole different story.
What do you think he's
LeBron
saying
James has
privately?
been the single consistency within every championship run that he's had. No, he hasn't had the same success because he's had different teammates, different coaches, different systems. And
Whose fault's that? He keeps leaving. It's not like they break down the team. They built a championship caliber team in Cleveland the first time. They were unable to get the job done. And then he left. Then he went down to Miami. They won the title twice. They lost twice in the finals. Then he left. Then he went back to Cleveland. They brought in Kevin Love for him. And then he left again. LeBron James keeps leaving. So you don't get to say, well, he didn't get the same supporting cast, he didn't have the same teams, because he's the one that left.
ultimately, that's been a lot of LeBron
These
James'
sound like a
fault.
lot of excuses.
That's been a lot of that's been a lot of his fault.
You know what it actually reminds me of? It reminds me of like a couples therapy, what I'm listening to right now. And Ryan Hollins and Quentin Richardson are in couples therapy, and the host is like shaking her head, and she's clearly pointing to which part of the couple she agrees with. That's what it sounds like to me. It's like, you're very lucky to have this man. That's a quote from The Simpsons, by the way.
Michael played the same competition year after year.
How can you play the same competition over an 8-year stretch? I just think about that. The only time he faced a team in the finals in consecutive years was the Utah Jazz, 97 and 98. You know, when he started winning titles, Magic Johnson was in the league, Isaiah Thomas was in the league, Larry Bird was still in the league. When he ended up finishing, it was Shaq, it was Kobe, those guys were Tim Duncan, those guys were in the league. So if I'm being honest, I'm yet to hear one substantial point from Ryan Hollins. And this is typical. This is exactly why I wrote the book. It's because of this. It's just half-truths and flat-out lies.
The NBA has evolved into a different level to where you got to join it with a guy.
And who started that? Because they couldn't get over the hump, because they couldn't win the championship. Dwyane Wade was a part of it. Chris Bosh was a part of it. But you know who else was a part of it? LeBron James. So now he is being given the excuse for the mess that he has made in the NBA.
Gotta go and get help. So you cannot question or knock a guy for going and getting help.
You just said that LeBron was the picture of consistency in all the championship runs. Let me show you what the real picture of consistency is. We go to the finals 6 times. Mm-hmm. I'm the finals MVP 6 times. That means that I'm the reason we made it, and I'm the reason we won it. Mm-hmm. I ain't get a ball to nobody and say, go win it for me. No.
Here's where people that think LeBron is better will actually fight back a little bit. And they'll say that, well, what about Paxson? What about Steve Kerr? Now, the difference is, he's obviously referring to Kyrie Irving and Ray Allen. Now, for Kyrie Irving, that was a clear out. That was a complete clear out. LeBron didn't even touch the ball. That was Kyrie Irving going one-on-one with Steph Curry. With Paxson, what they did was, and this is so intelligent by Jackson, he saw that Jordan was the only guy that scored in that fourth quarter for the Chicago Bulls until Paxson made that shot. So by playing chess, they ran a play knowing that the Suns would completely collapse. And they saw the mismatch with Pippen. Pippen broke inside. The defense collapsed. And then went to Horace Grant. Then it went to Paxson, who was wide open. He made the shot. But that play happened because of Jordan. It wasn't Pippen clearing out and then making the shot. It wasn't Paxson clearing out and making that shot. And Jordan standing in the corner. And as for Steve Kerr, that was Jordan creating the shot for Steve Kerr. It's just that simple. Now, had LeBron drove the ball and then kicked it to Kyrie Irving, who made the shot because of the defense collapsing, yeah, that play is a result of LeBron James. That's not what happened. LeBron was standing in the corner. Everyone was looking at Kyrie Irving. All the Golden State Warriors defenders, they were looking at Kyrie Irving. They weren't concerned with LeBron one bit. Now, for Ray Allen's shot, that's a little bit different. LeBron missed the shot. LeBron took the shot. Chris Bosh bailed him out by getting that rebound and then dished it out to Ray Allen. That was a complete bailout. Unless if you want to tell me that was planned and that was a pass to Chris Bosh from off the rim. Sorry. All right, back to what Quentin Richardson is talking about.
I'm the MVP, unquestioned, every single time when we win because I made us.
And by the way, we have short memories now, but people forget that Golden State, when they won their first couple championships, they didn't go get Kevin Durant. They built through the draft. They built through their system. They made each other better. Then they won championships. Then they got Kevin Durant. So they didn't have to go seek somebody before they won a championship.
This lady is wrong, but she's also right. So they won their first championship, so it wasn't championships with Durant, without Durant. And then they brought in Durant. But what she's right is saying that Ryan Hollins is saying you must go and seek people out to win championships because it's a super team era. That's not what happened with Golden State at all. They did it organically. They drafted Draymond Green. They drafted Steph Curry. They drafted Klay Thompson. So beyond that, it's really semantics because they went all the way to the finals. They won 73 games. So it's not like they were a bad team or anything like that. But beyond that one misstep where she said they won championships rather than championships, she's 100% right with everything else she said.
LeBron James in that 23 with Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen, he has the exact same.
Oh my God. Okay. So, first of all, can we go the other way with this? Put Jordan alongside Chris Bosh and Dwyane Wade and Ray Allen and all those other shooters? How much damage do you think they would have inflicted on the league of that? Do you think they would have won 2 titles? Or 3 or 4? Maybe we would have seen the 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, that thing. The other thing is Pippen alongside LeBron, 2 very emotional players. I don't think it would have worked. I think you needed some kind of balance there. You needed a guy like Jordan who would take those shots, who would take those pressure moments. LeBron has shown that he won't necessarily always do that. The other thing, and the most damning thing, is we've seen the trouble LeBron has had with a powerful coach, a ballsy coach like Luke Walton this year. How do you think he would have gone with Phil Jackson? It would. Oh my God.
That's a what if. That's never going to happen. That's like saying, let's go have Michael and LeBron play.
And speaking of emotional, I'm not sure if you caught that, but Hollins there saying it's a fact. How's that a fact? How is that a fact? It's a bloody opinion. Oh my God. This is what annoys me, right? This is what infuriates me. LeBron James fans, or some idiot Jordan fans, some idiot Kobe fans, it's not just always LeBron fans, but when fans will say that, hey, it's a fact. It's not a fact. This is all hypothetical. So then to turn around and say it's a fact? How do you know for sure? How do I know for sure that the Bulls wouldn't have won 8 or 9 titles with LeBron? I don't know. It's because it's not a fact. It's a complete hypothetical. And he's going to say it's a fact? Oh my goodness.
And if you put Michael in a Cleveland jersey, in a Miami jersey, maybe in that Miami jersey, you don't get the same results.
Yes, they do wish. And you know what? We finally got to the point where Ryan Hollins was correct to something. He said you do not get the same results. 100% agree. Jordan could have 9 or 10 championships if he was in that Miami Heat uniform.
You do not get the same one. Maybe he gets the Miami ones, not what LeBron's done in Cleveland.
So that's the end of the video. Let's move on to some other questions. I hope you enjoyed that. I need a beer. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I need a beer. How would I fix tanking? And obviously this is an issue in the NBA right now. I would fix it. I can't remember who said this. This is not my idea. I think it was Brian Scalabrine. I'm not sure. But he said that, hey, let's award the number 1 pick to the team with the best record that doesn't make the playoffs. And that gives you incentive to continue to be competitive up until the final day. Now, you could say then that maybe teams would then tank to get out of the playoffs. I mean, that might be an issue. But I think it's a lot better than what we have now. You know, you've got a situation with teams where it might be, they probably shouldn't even bother playing. They probably, nobody's watching them. I don't think they understand that. Nobody's watching them. There is a definite issue. And the problem is, when it comes to tanking, I think it's just to save money. And they're masquerading it into, well, we're going to get the most ping pong balls. But it's just a ping pong ball. It's not even like the NFL where, okay, you've got the worst record in the league, you're guaranteed the number 1 pick in the draft. It's not even that. So that's how I would change it. Obviously with some slight changes. But I think more of an eye test, and it's become subjective, so I'm aware of how the problems that could arise from this. But if I think that a team is taking the foot off the accelerator, then I would penalize them one slot for every time they would do that. So if they were scheduled to get, say, the number 1 pick or the most ping pong balls, and I think that they are tanking, then I'm going to then penalize them. That's something that maybe could happen. Or maybe, you know, the players and the owners, they could start caring about the results. That would help too. Next question. Should the NBA change the draft age? Look, no. Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'll say yes, but I'm going to go the other way. I think it should be 3-year minimum. And the league would be better for it. For a variety of reasons, because you'll actually have an idea of who you're drafting. This one and done thing, or players going to play 1 year overseas, I don't think that works. I think that's just as much of a crapshoot as what you're going to see with high schoolers. So it didn't fix a damn thing when it comes to the NBA. So I think it should go up to 3 years. And I know people will get upset at that, but hey, that's my opinion. I am all in favor for the product being better, and the product's it desperately needs to be better, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because this whole tanking thing is meant to increase your draft odds. That's the primary reason for it. I mean, there's other reasons for it too, right? But the what we are told is so you can improve your position in the draft. But the draft itself is such a crapshoot now anyway, because there's so many young players in there and you've got no idea how good they are. I mean, the sample size on what you're judging the players on is so minute, then it doesn't even make sense. So think about it from that standpoint. Next question, and we're going to finish up on this question. If Durant wins after winning another title, and then he wins another, can we call him the GOAT? No. Okay. You know what? This isn't that bad of a question. That means he would have won 4 straight titles. I'm assuming 4 straight finals MVPs. Who knows what's going to happen this year? Although it's close. I mean, last year I would not have been surprised if Steph Curry had gotten it last year. But if he walks away with 4 straight titles on 2 different teams, by the way, I'm not sure if that's ever happened before, especially if it's on his 4th straight title. But I can't remember a player going to a different team after winning a championship and then winning another championship. So that would be interesting. So there's some history there. The 4 straight titles that's never been done since Bill Russell and Sam Jones and those guys. So that's also interesting. Look, you can make a little bit of an argument for him. He's definitely would have, in my opinion, from a resume standpoint, he will be ahead of LeBron in terms of their careers at that point. Obviously, he would have to continue that. It's not a bad question, especially if he does it in a city like New York, who is starving for a title. That would be the equivalent of LeBron winning in Cleveland. So that's a decent question. I like that one. And on that note, I am going to head off. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had a great day. This has been the I Still Love This Game podcast, and thanks for listening.